Okay guys, good afternoon. Today I'm going to talk about interface design and development. It's sort of a task that I'm assigned to do. So okay, today we're going to talk about three things: HTML, Bootstrap, and Angular. So basically, HTML, Bootstrap, and Angular are sort of a concept of MVC. Called MVC is a model view controller. Let me give you an overall idea of it. Look at this phone. In this phone, right, you can see there's the icons, and then there's the layout of how the icon is, and then there's how the icon operate, how the phone operates. So HTML is basically the how the icons, the content, how the visual, and Bootstrap is also a visual part of it, but it's more of a grid. Like you see how this is like this icon is how it's organized. That's what Bootstrap is. And Angular is the back end of web apps. So basically HTML, Bootstrap, and Angular are web application functions or softwares used for it. Okay, HTML. HTML, like I said earlier, is just a front end visual look. So right here you can see that this is a basic structure of how HTML document is created. It's not a programming language. It's not a language at all. It's just a sort of a code or app. So right here you can see iDoc. This is a must-have in every HTML. Then you have HTML. Then you have header. Header is where you put your title, your meta. You link it to your CSS, which is your cascading style effect, which adds more visual flair to your page. And then you have your body. Your body is where you put your main stuff, your paragraphs, your images, your forms, table, your whatever not you need to put inside it. And then there's always open and close. Okay, now these are a few examples I'm going to go through. One of it is HTML form. On your left side here, like I said earlier, you have your title, okay, and then you have your header, then you have your body, which is where you put your main things. So whenever you want to declare a form, you have form, you can see here, form, method, post, action, mailer.php. So and then you have your name, email, gender, and you got your input type text, which is the box, and email, and then your gender. Radio is basically whether you can select. It's like a checkbox. You can either be a male or female. It's a tick. And then you have a comment. So this is a rough example of how it's going to look like on your right side. The display of it, as you can see, name will be like first name. Then this is just a concept. It's not a direct code view of it. And as you can see, t-shirt size XL, L, M, and S is like a radio button. This is how the gender will work. Moving on, then we have table. Table is a very common thing that sometimes you need to use. You can see here table border. One means the thickness of the table. Then you have table row. Table row is this is your table row or table header or whatever you need to call. Then TD is table data. As you can see here, row 1 cell 1, get row 1 cell 1. Then the more you include of TD, the more it basically is like a column. TD is a column and TR is a row. So now let's move on to Bootstrap. So Bootstrap, remember I told you it's like a layout, a grid option. You can see the calendar, the line, the photos, camera, and all that things. This is Bootstrap. Bootstrap 3 is a grid system, 12 grids, and it focuses on mobile first. You can see here I have 12 columns, or you should have 12 rows. Since limited to size, I just give you an example till 6. You must have 12. It works on 12. You can increase. So Bootstrap, it goes by row, column, as you can see here as an example. And this is one layout which I have drawn for you. You can see here. In this you can get an idea. This is row 1, column 1. This is row 1, column 2, which is the second column, and out of the second column, this is your first row. Same thing, this one thing is the second column, but it joins the first row. And then you can see here your row 2, first column, second column, third column, fourth column, fifth column, and so on. This is how the grid system works. And then these are some prefix and ideas of how the Bootstrap, you can, when you create a Bootstrap or when you create a web app, you tend, since you have to accommodate to all form factors of screen size to view it. And here are some examples. You have extra small, which are phones, tablets, then you have your medium device, desktops, and larger desktops. Okay, this is how you call, like you initialize the size, like call dash access, call dash sm, call dash md, call dash ld. Notice here how everyone has the same number of columns. And this is what Bootstrap is. Bootstrap 3, which is the current one, focus a lot on mobile first, since we are all moving towards handheld devices more. This is an example of a code for how you want to initialize the Bootstrap. You can see here, you initialize a row like this, a row, and then you go column, 3 columns, so you'll get like something like this, column 1, column 2, like that. Okay, this is the content of it. Another example, this is like half of a code to show you all. Okay, right here, this side is your first row, and you have 2 columns like call access. So this is designed for a mobile device. So you have your corporate banner, your login, and this is your second row, which you have details about it. And this is the direct example of how it will look like. You can see your corporate banner here, then you have login language, then your home, product, services, and whatnot. Moving next. Okay, just now I showed you all HTML has a form, correct? Bootstrap also has a form, but the difference is in Bootstrap you have 2, vertical form and inline form. This is inline, this is vertical. So in Bootstrap it works with HTML. So in HTML you put form, and then you have div, which is what is used to create the Bootstrap, this div thing, and you carry on like that, and that's how you create your form. And then Bootstrap, when nowadays you see web pages and all that, they have this navigation bar right here. You see this? Bootstrap has an inbuilt code or CSS that allows you to do it, and this is a code example of how. This is, you can see here, nav justify means you can have your navigation centralized like this. You can have nav right, which will move everything to the right side, or nav down and up, and you have nav inverse, which is changing it to black color. Next, we talk about AngularJS. AngularJS is the back end work of every web app. It works in a single page application. It's like MVC. It has its own MVC, and there's 3 main directives for it. You have your ng-app, ng-class, ng-controller. ng-app is the it's the main number 1 variable or the module for the whole app, the whole web page, sorry. And ng-class falls under the body, and ng-controller is like the one that links to the JavaScript page. Okay, a module, like I said earlier, is an ng-app. You can see here, ng-app. It's used to link the page to the JavaScript, but you can't do any it's not a variable or anything. It's just like a mediator, and then each page can have 1 module. So this is an example of ng-app and ng-module on the HTML page. As you can see here, this is how you create an ng-module. Is done in the HTML tag, and then this is in your JS file. You access it with div ng-app equals my app. Have the same name. Okay, moving forward. Okay, this is controller. Like I said earlier, controller is like also like a mediator. It's like a sub-mediator. Okay, let's see. ng-app is the main header, and ng-controller is the subheading of the main header. So it's like an object variable where you can access objects of the web app, and you can have multiple controllers from 1 module. This is the one that interacts with the database, like a mediator where you can put codes or function inside it. And this is how it's initialized in the HTML page with data ng controller, my controller. And here is an example of how you get it in the JS file. You get it like data ng-controller, then the name must be similar. Like these two are different names, so they are not the same controller, but they are. This is how you initialize them. And you can see here scope is, let's move on. Scope is like an object or an array where you can access. It can only be used in JS file. You usually see it in JS file. So you can, as you see here, this code, this whole thing, this array is actually values or values inside an object called units. And and to access the units, you call it scope.units or scope.whatever. It's like a key to every lock in JS file. Next, filter. Filter is like a filter cup or a filter paper which separates certain things. It is used to get the values you need or you want. You can create custom filters with app filter, and an example is var app example, like you see here. This is the JS file. You can see app.filter. Like I said earlier, you create a custom filter called Roman, okay, and then your function, you tell what it is and all that. And this is how you call it. This line, this single line in the center of these two variables is actually the filter. So rom_num is the value in the HTML, and the filter is called Roman. Next comes custom directive. Custom directive is used to extend the functionality of the web apps. It can be used on multiple web apps. So it's like creating a new function for it to work. It's something like a filter, but I mean not the function of it, the approach of it. So as you can see here, what I wanted to do is I created this data.ng menu, okay, and then I put array variables inside it. Now to create, when you create in the JS file, is app.directive, and then you don't have the dash like other things. It's just ng, then a capital M menu, then you create a function, and then you can decide like what is it going to do, the directive, how, like in this case you're deciding how to display it and so on. Next we talk about root or config. ANgularjs is a function that instead of reloading your whole web app to when you go to a new page, instead it just goes to the page without reloading the whole application, okay. But the thing about ANgularjs or ANgularjs, you have to download a separate AngularJS script, as you can see here, an example, and then it only can run on servers and virtual servers. Okay, validation. There are 4 types of validations. It's a simple thing. You got .has warning, .has error, and has success, and these are the outputs of how it will look like.